Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Maple Leafs fans, welcome back to Game Over Toronto. Happy Saturday night. Unfortunately, this is not the video that we were all hoping for, where I come on to the screen with a broom. Tonight, the Ottawa Senators finally pushed back enough to steal a game from the Toronto Maple Leafs. Despite the fact that the Leafs let in shots the entire game, that just goes to show that doesn't matter. Because every game up till now, they have been lower in the shot clock, and they have won, and tonight they got more shots, but a combination of Sens defense being better, their goaltending was better. Ullmark really showed up for the Sens a lot more tonight, and the Leafs had a pendulum swing in net go the other way. Just a couple plays, and then you make it to overtime, and it becomes a coin flip. You can't bury on the double minor, and so here we are on a Saturday night, Game 4. Now series now at 3-1, and the Leafs will get 2 days off before coming back on Tuesday. So let's get right into it. Welcome to Game Over Toronto. Like I said, make sure you hit like, make sure you hit subscribe. And tonight we not only have myself, but Zach Payne back again. Thank you for being here, Zach. I know we talked a little bit before we went live here, but how are you feeling? I mean, we knew that they were gonna, like you said, they needed to.
Yeah, okay. I feel like I've taken on a weirdly objective role in this series where, like, when the Leafs were winning, it's like, yeah, they're winning. They're doing some things that are not so great. Give credit to the Sens in certain areas. The refs are bad, all this, whatever. And now I feel like I have to be, like, the voice of reason a little bit because one of my group chats losing their minds after that overtime loss. And I feel like that could definitely be the case for a lot of Leaf fans who see that and they're like, oh no, here we go again. The Sens get one game. This is going to be just like Montreal, except worse because it was a 3-0 series lead. And let's just take a collective breath, because for all of the bad in this game, and there certainly was a little bit more bad than in the previous games in this series, that's why they lost. It was a coin flip game. Now, and I told you offline, Lauren, it didn't feel like the other overtime games in this series where the Sens were not really generating anything in the third period or overtime, and it kind of felt like you felt pretty good about the Leafs' chances. I still felt pretty good about the Leafs' chances, but in overtime, this turned into a game of trading chances.
Yeah.
And that's not the Leafs game at all at 5-on-5. You saw in the second and third period, and even in the first, Ottawa had nothing going at 5-on-5 in this game. Their lone goal before the overtime winner was the David Perron goal where, a shot gets blocked and goes to Perron. Great play by Perron to get open, but happens. The Leafs did a fantastic job 5-on-5 defending, as they've done all series, and you go to overtime and that goes out the window. And suddenly both teams are trading chances. Credit to the Ottawa Senators, because in overtime, they finally figured out something that has taken them 4 full games to get to. They finally realized that you just have to get as much chaos in front of the net, and they just have to win a battle at the net. Way too many times they were like, oh, well, if I go to the net and a shot from the point gets through, maybe I'll get a rebound. But in this game, like in overtime especially, they figured out, no, I have to be the reason that shot gets through, because my defender's boxing me out. The goalie's seeing everything. The defenders are blocking everything. I actually have to win a battle. They were throwing, especially off the rush, they were going for a lot of these weird backhand plays where it's like, oh, that's not a very dangerous chance. But then you see Anthony Stolarz punch it out to the slot, and it's like, oh, that's a problem.
Yeah.
So they were definitely a lot smarter with their approach. Credit to the Sens for the adjustments they made. But as far as the Leafs go, take a breath. You're up 3-1. You are in a fantastic position. You needed to win one of the two in Ottawa. You very nearly won both, but you won one. Now you get to go home. You get a couple days off, which apparently John Tavares might need, and you can reset and get it done at home.
Yeah, and again, the penalties tonight just kind of weird and a little bit inconsistent. The Leafs get 2 penalties or 2 power plays. The Sens get 1. There's a double minor double minor that happens, and it's just, I don't know. Tonight, there were definitely a couple of opportunities where the Leafs were hitting posts and were coming just a couple inches away, and the more that the game went on, the more it felt like they just weren't getting those bounces tonight. Whereas every other game so far in this series, they've gotten them, or if they haven't, then they've been able to make good on opportunities that follow up from those good bounces. And tonight it just felt like the Sens had a couple more of them than the Leafs did, and that's hockey sometimes. And I agree with you about overtime. Like, it was way more back and forth, holding your breath every time the other team got the puck than the Leafs are good at playing. They're not so good defensively that they can recover and get it up the ice and take advantage and bury opportunities. And proof of that is how the Leafs got absolutely crushed by Florida last year, because that is Florida's bread and butter, right? So it's a little bit unnerving knowing that that's how the Leafs felt tonight. But you know, there are a couple of plays that if it goes the Leafs' way, then maybe we're having a different kind of start to the show.
Austin Matthews hit the post in overtime.
Yep.
You're literally.
He had a couple really good opportunities in the overtime period too.
Yep. Also had like a mini 2-on-1 that just missed that far outside post. I was kind of hoping he would shoot for a rebound there because Marner was driving to the net, but then he had that other chance off like the end boards that he got another good shot off. Like, Matthews was buzzing in overtime. He had a overall pretty good game. I think someone mentioned it. I didn't see exactly where, but someone mentioned in the chat that Matthews and Marner looked gassed. Yeah, they were playing like every other shift in overtime. Yeah. They had to play like the entire time because Tavares he had to leave for a little bit, which
we'll talk about later.
Yeah, we'll talk about later.
Because that's, it
overtime.
like if
overtime.
Yeah, like. Well, the Leafs had a bad turnover to start the game. Domi takes a roughing penalty with 12 minutes to go. Tim Stützle, buries it. He gets his first of the playoffs. It's just he puts it in a really nice spot. A one-timer right over Stoltze's glove. Patches was looking better tonight. That was my next note. Patch Reddy looked a little bit better. He looked like he had a bit more energy. He didn't look like he died so much, but still not exactly what we need. And then Perron takes a roughing penalty. And what ends up happening is Pinto gets a shorthanded goal. And for the fourth game in this series, a trickle-in goal has gone in. And this time it just wasn't for the Leafs.
That is what it is. It's a breakaway. I'm not going to fault Stoltze too much for that.
He should have had the 5-hole covered better. There was way too much daylight shown between those knees.
Yeah, but for sure. But William Nylander, what a pulverizing game that man had. Terry M in the chat saying Nylander sucks. And honestly, for a lot of this game, I actually agreed. Nylander has been... It's so funny because we come into this series and what are the few things we think we know?
Yeah.
Game 7 is inevitable. William Nylander will be the only performing member of the core four.
Yep.
And nothing will be easy. And instead, the Leafs went up 3-0. They very nearly swept the Sens. And William Nylander has been genuinely, for his standards, awful. Yeah. Not even a ghost. Awful. Horrible turnovers. Horrible penalties. Just very lethargic look. It looks like he's playing with a migraine right now. And it's hilarious because he also had 2 primary points on fantastic passes in this game. But that's what a weird play. And you know what? We're at the first one, so we might as well jump into it. I don't know about you. End of the first period, I'm thinking okay, if we could get some momentum going, whatever. And then there's this play in the offensive zone, and I'm like, where is Willie? And I see him standing at the point. I'm like, what are you doing? And then in my head, I was like, he's about to score here, and then bang.
Yeah.
A shot pass down to John Tavares.
Perfect tip.
Beautiful tip.
Beautiful.
How good has Tavares been?
Yeah, man. I mean, that guy is Mr. Consistent, and you remember, he's the guy that got us to the second round last time. He's come up in big moments. Every game in this series, he's had a hand in big moments. Maybe not as big as Simone Benoit, but who has? Right? But JT, I couldn't agree more. It really felt like the Leafs needed to not only stop the bleeding, but get one back before the end of the first period. And they did, so I felt pretty good about it. They were tied in shots going into the first intermission. They were behind 2-0 for the first time in the entire series. And they come back, they fight back to get within 1. And then the second period, there's a 4-on-4, the Benoit Pinto 4-on-4 to start because of all the extracurriculars. At the end of the first period, Omar gets a really nice stop on Willie. Tanev gets a shot, doesn't go. It gets killed off, and then a John Tavares penalty, and then with the Sens penalty following right up after that, with Sanderson taking an interference. There's 41 seconds of 4-on-4, and the Leafs can't bury, right? And so that's the first That's the first moment where it's like, okay, well, that would have been nice to have because they end up getting a power play after that. But then it doesn't matter because Matthew Nyes, because who else but Matthew Nyes, is the hero for the Leafs with 9:48 to go in the second period. He pokes it in himself. He essentially pokes it to himself on a delayed penalty and then just goes top bar down. Like, it was...
Well, that's underselling it. Like, defensive zone, off a shot block, he outraces Artem Zub, pokes it past him, outraces him, out-hustles him, out-muscles him, and just disgusting finish over the shoulder of Linus Ullmark, and a beautiful celly too. Like, that was the most, like, this is going to be a bit of a callback, but if we go back to 2022, game 1 against Tampa Bay, there was a goal where the Leafs are shorthanded. Mitch Marner flings it out of the zone. It bounces at the blue line, and David Kampf outraces Victor Hedman, gets a breakaway and scores. It was like that level of hype where it's just like go, 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 and then he scores, and it was just absolutely beautiful.
The image of David Kampf screaming at the glass was my background for like the entire off season. Like, I rode the energy of that so long. It was so good. You got to imagine, like, I mean, Matthew Nyes, his agent is just absolutely salivating.
Save it for after the season.
No. We're not talking about it right now. I'm just saying, like, with how he's played, his agent is got to be just like slobbering like a dog in front of a steak. Like, just absolutely waiting.
I'm flipping this. You know who else is salivating? Brad Treliving, because if you'll recall, at the trade deadline, Brad Treliving said, no, Matthew Nyes is untouchable. I don't care that you're offering Mikko Rantanen.
Yep.
And he was like, no, you're not getting Matthew Nyes. No. Untouchable. Don't call me again.
Yeah.
And, man, considering how Rantanen has looked, that is, like, fantastic decision by Treliving. Honestly, you can't even argue. Like, Nyes, like, honestly, I wish you could sign 15-year deals still. Like, that guy, if he needs to be a Leaf for life, because he is like, he just embodies, like, is he going to be the best player on his line? Probably not as long as Matthews and Marner are here. That'd be really weird if he was. But he just has this aura in the playoffs. Like, he has aura.
The truculence a lot of the team lacks it. I can't.
It's not even that. Like, obviously he has that, but it's just pure aura. Like, you watch that goal and it's like, yeah, Matthew Nyes, in the playoffs, he's a gamer. Mm-hmm. He is going to get it done in the playoffs. That's his third goal of the series now. And in 4 games. Like, baller, dude.
Yeah. And, like, I can't wait to see how many Nyes jerseys become more and more popular. You know what I mean? Like, he's going to be here for a long time. Thank goodness. And so we finished the second period tied 2-2. The shots heavily in Toronto's favor, 18-11. They did a really good job of limiting Ottawa's shots in the second period.
Well, you're, again, same thing, underselling it. Ottawa had 1 shot in the second period. They had 4 shots in the back 40 of regulation.
Yep. And one of them, unfortunately, does go in from David Perron, who ends up bearing a shot after a flurry. It comes out to Artem Zub, who passes it to David Perron, who's all alone. Stoli doesn't have a chance.
Block shot.
What's that?
It was a blocked shot that rolled right to Perron's stick.
Oh, I thought it was the pass from Zub.
The Leafs defender got a stick on it.
Oh, and
forcing the puck to go to Perron.
Oh, I didn't see that on the replay.
So, but gotta say, fantastic play by Perron. He got open behind Jake McCabe, so it was kind of a make your own luck.
Yep, and that guy won the Stanley Cup with the Blues several years ago, right? Like, so he's been there.
Sportsnet's panel was sure to tell you.
Yeah. But then another hero moment from the Leafs defense with OEL leveling it up and tying it up with 5:29 to go. Just a JT shot rebound. Willie gets it across to OEL for a one-timer. And then they go to overtime. At that point, it really felt like next goal wins territory as soon as they tied it. And then essentially we go to overtime. Stoli makes a big save, and then John Tavares ends up going after the room after getting a shoulder to the jaw from Artem Zub. And for several minutes he did not come out. And of course, the Drake Batherson high stick. There's a double minor that goes in favor of the Leafs. And despite the fact that they have been the best in the playoffs so far at the power play, like you said before we went live here, Zach, as soon as that expired, it sort of felt like it was inevitable that it was going to go the Sens' way, you know?
So yeah, a few things. First of all, Thank God Drake Batherson took a penalty, because if there was no power plays in overtime after Artem Zub blatantly interfered with John Tavares with a shoulder to the head, I would have been outraged. Batherson high sticks 10 of, and like you said, 4-minute power play. They had, I think they had 5 or 6 shots. They had their chances.
They had really good
Matthews
chances.
Obviously at the post that we talked about. Matthew Nyes had a one-timer that was kicked out by Allmark. Nylander had a weird play at the side of the net. The Leafs were getting to the net. They were getting some chances. It just wasn't the same decisiveness that you see when Tavares is out there. I'm choosing to blame Morgan Rielly's existence for that, because he just, when he's at the point, he's just not nearly as dynamic a passer as Mitch Marner. So there's no passes down into the bumper to an open Tavares. We know how aggressive the Sens diamond formation is. So it's unfortunate. And I think the other note is this is definitely the worst the Leafs power play looked in this series so far.
And they still got chances.
Scored.
Yeah.
Still got chances, but you go 0 for 4. That's we complained a little bit softly about the refs in games 2 and 3. You got the calls in game 4 that you wanted. You had more power play opportunities, including the overtime one.
You got to bury it. Execute. Yeah, man. I couldn't agree more. And the one thing I will say that I did really like about the Leafs on the 4-minute minor, the double minor there were a couple of moments where there were flurries, and in hindsight, maybe they swung too far in the other direction in terms of the pendulum of energy. I really liked that they took when Allmark was down, they weren't just banging and smacking and just slapping at it. They were trying to make soft but decisive passes, but again too far to they overcorrected. You know what I mean? I like that it looked they were trying to get the best opportunity, but a little bit. Especially as when the first unit came back on, when there was a minute 40 left, they were trying too hard to get exactly the setup that they wanted, and no one was taking shots.
Yeah, the thing is, the biggest critique I have of that power play is there were 2 instances, one where it was Nylander at the goal line, one where it was Marner, and you could see Matthew Nyes just wasn't as close to the net. He was kind of backing off. Matthews was there, but not really. They're just kind of hovering, and Nylander and Marner on both plays. Nylander tries to go short side upstairs, Marner just wraps it around and tries to do a jam play of some sort, because they're looking for the tap in, right?
Yeah.
Marner's especially Marner is waiting for someone to go to the net so he could just quickly send a pass right in front to a stick and basically just have it deflect in. It just didn't work. I don't know the reason for that. I am confident if Tavares was out there, the Leafs would have scored, but he wasn't. And if ifs and buts were candy and nuts, then the Leafs would go 16-0 every playoffs.
Yeah. Well, and let's since we're talking about it already, why don't we move over into the second period and talk about what didn't go right for the Leafs tonight. So make sure before we do that, you hit like and subscribe. If you hit the bell, that way you can know when we go live on Tuesday after the Leafs game. Back in Toronto. It will be exciting to see how they come back. This was definitely the Leafs' worst game of the series so far. So I am expecting, especially with an extra day off, I am expecting them to likely have a practice the day before the game, and I expect Berube to really work hard on the power play and get back to what got Toronto the 3-0 series lead to begin with, because when they've been playing their hockey so far and they've been sticking to their game plan, they've been winning, and today they just couldn't hold them the same way. And so, you'll get last changeover on Tuesday, and you have to imagine all of that will get in. And so make sure you're here on Tuesday, and the only way to do that is by being subscribed. Well, that's not true. And hitting the like button and getting the notification bell so you know right when we go. That's the best way, the preferred way. That way you can be with us right from the beginning, because we love when you guys are here. So let's move over into the second period. So breaking down that double minor, they had a couple, that first minute and a half essentially of the power play. The Leafs did do a very good job. And I agree with you that I do think that if John Tavares was out there, it would have been a different outcome. I really do believe that.
Yep, but he wasn't. So you got to adapt, and I don't know, man.
Do you try? I mean, if you go back and rewind that, do you maybe, instead of putting Morgan Rielly out there, do you try Simone Benoit? Just because it's overtime magic?
No. But I will say, Simone Benoit and Max Domi, I think it was in the second period. It was after Knies had tied. It was 2-2.
Yeah.
And these two decided that they wanted to
Let's try it
pretend
again.
they were McDavid and Draisaitl. And the only problem was Simone Benoit was like, all right, I'm going to do it again. And then he completely missed the puck. And I was like, that's the guy I know. There's Simone Benoit.
Yeah.
And then there was a play in overtime where he like completely flubbed a D-to-D pass and gave the Sens a 3-on-2 the other way, which I was like, okay, that's a lot more like the Simone Benoit that I'm used to. But no, I don't know what I would have done. I think because McMahon hasn't earned that to be in the bumper there. Patches, I don't love that. Domi, maybe he could be a decent passer in the middle, but I think at that point you don't want to run 5 forwards if it's not your best 5. So Riley, for all his flaws, probably is better.
He has put up a lot of points so far in the playoffs. He has been better in the playoffs than he was in the regular season, right?
Still stinks on the power play, but
can't have everything.
Is what it is. I don't know. Like I think it works better as a learning. Not like a learning moment. Like we're so close, guys, but like you have to go back and look. Like okay, this is like we have tape now of what happens when we are doing what we want on the power play versus what we're not executing well, and you're going to be able to look at that. So we'll see what happens there.
Well, and since we're talking about special teams and the power play, we do need to talk about the fact that we did give up a shorthanded goal tonight.
Yep. Special teams cost them the game tonight.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
And that's it's I hate that there's like a little sprout of traumas past that's like, oh. Listen, I don't want it. But, the demons are there. And
for me, it's not. I'm not panicking until you don't lose a series till you lose one at home. Yeah. I am not panicking until if they lose game 5. That's when I'm going to be like, okay, no, settle down, get this done because I am not having this. Yeah. But I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt for one specific reason is for years we have watched a Leafs team that has taken on the identity of its coach. Mm-hmm. And Sheldon Keefe, man, for as good of a coach as he is, he was an emotional coach, and he got wrapped up in those moments. Craig Berube, what's the big deal?
It's one game.
And you see it. Like when Oliver Ekman-Larsson ties the game with 5 minutes left in the third period, the Leafs have a chance to come back and complete the sweep. Everyone on the bench, including coaches, are like losing their mind. And Craig Berube is like, so what?
Yeah.
Like, guys, we have bigger aspirations here, and you're getting excited over a Game 4 goal. Like, the Leafs have been very, very composed all series. That continued in this game. Credit to the Sens. They have been the emotional team, so they're going to ride this high. They'll probably come out flying in Game 5 because they have this energy, but I trust the Leafs to remain composed, remain poised, because that's what their coach brings to the table, and that's what having a veteran coach that has done this before gives you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do think that, I think maybe the moment and the excitement of getting a power play, because their power play has been so good that early in the game when they're already down 1, already down 2, already down 1, and they get a power play, and instead of being able to bury a chance and tie the game up, you let it go the other way. I think that gets to their head a little bit too, right? And he has done a very good job of keeping them even keeled, and I'm positive that they'll have the day off tomorrow. That's what I would guess, and then have a practice on Monday, and then play a game on Tuesday. And like you said, they have way bigger aspirations than just winning Game 4, right? And so does Ottawa. Listen, Ottawa just won their first game at home in like 7 years, right? So I'm sure they're going to be excited, and they're going to be raring to go, and they're going to be riding emotion, and it's up to the Leafs to be steadfast and present in the moment, and not try to get ahead of themselves, and not grip their sticks too tight, and try and ride the blue wave that's going to be hopefully covering the bottom bowl of Scotiabank Arena.
Yeah, I will say, like, I don't know. The Leafs will have a day off. Go home, relax. The Sens, I mean, it's a much bigger deal. Like, this game was a lot bigger of a deal to Ottawa than it was to Toronto, because from an Ottawa perspective, look, you're happy to be here. You're happy to be in the playoffs. Like, you don't necessarily have expectations. That being said, if they got swept by Toronto, that is like their nightmare fuel. That is
Yeah.
like the worst case scenario is make the playoffs just to get swept by the Leafs. They could have gotten swept by any team in the playoffs. But if it was Toronto, it would sting a little bit more for them. So getting that win, getting that playoff win off their back, the monkey off the back, if you will, it was a much bigger deal for Ottawa. For the Leafs, it's like, you didn't get it. Whatever. You got 3 more tries. Just win.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing, is that you just need to... They've done a really good job of keeping the Sens in a stranglehold, and, the Sens fought back a little bit tonight, but now you have to put the other hand behind the other person's head, and you need to make them go to sleep.
Will say, if to cater to the doom and gloom crowd a little bit here, the Leafs are now 1-12 in potential series clinching games in the Matthews era. So if you want a reason for concern, there's your big one. Is this team has quite literally the biggest track record in recent memory of not being able to close out series. They've had 3-2 series leads. They've had 3-1 series leads. Now they've had a 3-0 series lead. And I understand, people have been, trolling a little bit online, all the Leafs haters, but they aren't wrong. A 3-0 colossal choke would be the most, if the core was to get blown up, I'm gonna, why? What are you scared of?
What am I scared of? Are you new?
My words? No, you could be scared of the Leafs, but nothing that we say on this show is going to impact this year. So, at the end of the day, if the Leafs blow a 3-0 series lead, cool. That'll be a fitting end for Mitch Marner's career in Toronto. If they want to flip the script, then win. Marner's, because we know the script. We know that these guys are chokers. We know that they have literally been the biggest losers in the NHL. The whole point of these playoffs is prove us wrong.
Yep.
That's the whole point.
Right.
So you had a 3-0 series lead. Everyone is joking that the Leafs are going to lose in 7 because they expect it to some degree. Yeah. So prove us wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. And on the coattails of that, do we want to talk about the goaltending, or are you not overly concerned about it? I still think Anthony Stolarz is going to start on Tuesday.
Oh, absolutely. 2 things can be true. I'm not concerned about the goaltending long term, and Stolarz was not good tonight. That's a completely fair thing to say. I will say the other criticism I want to levy is Pontus Holmberg. For the love of God, put 2 hands on your stick, buddy. If I see him with 1 hand on the stick one more time, I might jettison him from this lineup myself. Because
you're gonna go Tanya Harding and take his knees out like Nancy Kerrigan.
The amount of times that he's losing puck battles just because he's not putting 2 hands on a stick is absolutely insane. Yep. So he got a well-deserved demotion to the 4th line in this game with Domi, and it was weird. It was sometimes Patre, sometimes McMahon. It should be McMahon, but at the same time, he hasn't exactly earned it. But Nylander's also been terrible. So you're playing this weird game where it's like, well, you've all, Tavares has been good, but you guys have been bad. So we're going to put you together because it's worked in the past. Maybe both of you will get going as a result.
Or you'll both be shit.
Or it's a disaster and you have to make a mid-game adjustment and because Holmberg's the safety blanket. It's the, okay, you're not going to help, but you won't.
Blanket needs to be put through the wash. And right now it's stanky and needs to go hang dry.
Well, because the problem is Holmberg, he doesn't make the line worse, but he doesn't make it better.
No,
he just
makes a net zero.
He just put,
with
and
the
he makes it so there's even
bad turnover. He has at least 2 bad turnovers every game,
and 1 failed breakaway.
Right.
So the problem with him is it puts even more pressure on Nylander to carry that line, and when Nylander is not playing to his capability, at his level at all, it just makes the line look really bad. So. But I don't know. Willie still owes us a goal for that horrible penalty in Game 3. Max Domi owes us a goal for that horrible penalty tonight. So I don't know. And I know David W. saying Nylander assisted on 2 goals. Yeah, cool. That doesn't mean he was good. You could score multiple points in a game and still be bad. Look at Evan Bouchard.
I was going to say.
That guy That guy has been the worst defender I've ever seen. Like, I'm praying that the Oilers are stupid enough to pay up. Like, if the Oilers have any brains in their head at all, trade Evan Bouchard the second you can, because the reason they won't win a Stanley Cup with McDavid and Draisaitl is because he's their number one defenseman and he is awful. So the point of that is you can still put up points and be bad. Nylander was bad for I don't know how long overtime went, but in regulation, he was bad for 59 minutes and 50 seconds, but he had 2 really great passes, so people forget.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so let's use that to levy over into the things that went well for the Leafs tonight. Before we do that, we have just under 10 people here in the chat. Oh, we got 11 people. Let's go. If you could hit like, if you could hit subscribe, if you could tell all your friends about Game Over Toronto and about the fact that there is a Game 5 coming. If there is Game 6, then there will be Game 6. But one game lost is not a series win, right? So
hey, we're content creators. We like this. More streams.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be nice if they had won tonight and gotten an extra break before whatever will be left of the team that survives the Battle of Florida. But there's a chance that that series could go all the way to 7 as well. So let's focus on Tuesday before we do anything else, and make sure, because we are going to have the overtime period after this, that you get your questions down into the chat as well. So let's talk about what went right for the Buds tonight here, pal. I will say that bottom line that is interchangeable with the 3rd/4th line, the Steven Lorentz, Scott Lawton, and Kelly Yarncroke. Boy, they're just earning all kinds of trust, aren't they? Like, it didn't matter that the Leafs were down. He was still rolling that line out there. And without Nick Robertson, there's very few moments where the Leafs were getting like super hemmed. It still did happen where the Leafs were just losing puck battle after puck battle after puck battle after puck battle and couldn't clear their zone tonight. And that is something that they've struggled with all series. And tonight it seemed a lot more paramount.
I strongly disagree with that.
Really?
The Leafs have been fantastic. The Leafs have been fantastic in puck battles all series. There was a stat after the first period of Game 3 that the Leafs were, or it might have been Game 2, but the Leafs were winning like 85% of the puck battles. The Senators, every time there's been a board battle, they've lost. Tonight, that was different. Like, tonight, the Sens were doing a better job, but that is by no means indicative of how the series has gone so far. The Leafs have been the more physical team. They've been the tougher team. They have been better with their sticks. They've been fantastic defensively at 5-on-5. They've been good on the forecheck when they actually get in on it. And you saw it tonight. Like, the third line, like you mentioned, there was multiple times where they were getting like 45 seconds to the offensive zone.
Yes.
Purely off of battles.
Sure.
Won.
I'm just saying, in their own zone, that they haven't been that good all series in their own end with board battles. Like, when the Leafs have been able to get in the other team's end, yes, they have been good, but how many times have they been dumping it and been second to the puck?
Yeah, that's a different problem. But in terms of the actual battles, the problem when you get hemmed in is the Leafs aren't creating those battles. Like, the Senators are just passing it around and they're getting their cycle going. The Leafs haven't been.
That's
able
what
to
I'm
stop
saying.
It. Yeah, but that's different than losing battles, though.
I mean, like preliminary battles in the zone, and they haven't been able to, like, when it has gone into a corner in their own end, they've had a heck of a time getting to it because the Sens are passing them faster than they can get to it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but that's just losing a race. That's not necessarily losing a battle. Like, every time it's been 50-50 on the boards, like, I feel pretty good that it's more so 60-40 in favor of the Leafs. Whereas, to me, the bigger concern is because the Leafs collapse so much in the defensive zone, when the Sens are able to get the puck up to the point, that's when it's like, okay, now we're going to be in a little bit of trouble here because now you have to block a shot and then you have to chase a puck and go win a battle to get it out. Whereas when the Sens are forced to dump it in and you can get your D back, they've done a pretty good job of getting out.
It feels like the Leafs have had a lot of, like, partial clears, but then the Sens are doing a really good job of holding at the line. Like, the Sens blue line at actually holding the zone has been, like, unbelievable. And it's led to them having a lot of cycle chances. That's more what I'm saying. I used the wrong thing when I said battles. I don't mean, like, individual board battles. But like
the Senators have done a good job putting pressure on the Leafs D when they have the puck and forcing them to either lob it off the glass or lob it into the neutral zone for a change.
Or cause an icing. Right? Like
there's a few bad ones tonight, man.
Yeah.
Pacioretty. Oh, he had a brutal one where it's just like you lose a battle and then you ice it. Or I don't know. The icings were a problem tonight.
Yeah. Well, and I do want to say that like we do have lots of good things to talk about. Obviously, JT getting the hit from Zub. Maybe the best thing to come out of that is that he came back and actually played for 5 minutes after that. Like, holy breath of fresh air, man. Oh my God.
Hey, Jinx.
Hey. And someone in the chat just said, "Thank you for not buying into the don't jinx it." So, go figure.
No.
So what do the Leafs need to do to get back to what made them great in the last couple games? Obviously, the special teams needs to be better. We know that.
It's the special. Stolarz obviously has to be better. He doesn't have to necessarily be as good as he's been in the first 3 games. He just has to be a little bit better.
Yeah.
And the special teams. I'm not going to lie, I have so little concern for the Leafs 5-on-5 play. Like, every time it's been 5-on-5, I feel good. The Senators have done such, and it's funny to criticize them after they won. The Sens have been so bad at generating 5-on-5 offense. It looks like previous iterations of the Leafs in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Is exactly what it looks like. They have had zero ability to get to the middle of the ice. They've had zero ability to get shot attempts from the dangerous areas, get passes to the dangerous areas. The Leafs have been blocking shots. They've been boxing out well. They've been just again. The Senators had 4 shots on goal in the second and third periods combined. So I was coming into this game being like, if the Leafs get a lead in the third period, no more fluky bounces, no more weird goals. Like, they're going to shut it down. I feel the same going into game 5. If the Leafs have a third period lead, they're winning.
Yeah.
I don't think the Senators have the ability to play from behind in the third period and push through the Leafs defense. And again, we also have to remember, they were at their most desperate in game 3, obviously. Yeah. They were even more desperate. Like, you're going into the third period in overtime, like the second and third period especially, and it was mostly tied for those moments. And the Senators, their season is on the line. The motivation for Travis Green is so easy. Guys, step it up, play your hardest, or we are golfing tomorrow.
Yeah.
And the Senators were giving the Leafs everything they had, and the Leafs were taking those punches. Obviously, Perron gets the 1 goal. I don't think that's necessarily a very repeatable outcome. The Leafs, they battle back and win. Like, you saw it. That's why we talk about the shots on goal. The Leafs were so much better in that department because the Senators parked the bus even more aggressively than the Leafs. And it was very encouraging to see how the Leafs played from behind. So I'm still very, very, very confident.
Yeah, I agree. The fact of the matter is, yes, Ottawa won in overtime, and in fairness, the Leafs didn't win. Okay, congratulations, you won a game.
Well, good for Ottawa. Like,
for sure. And I love that. I like that Ottawa got a chance to come back to the playoffs for the first time in what feels like too long. And they did get a win at home. Like, if I'm an Ottawa fan, like, I'm jazzed that, like, I at least got to see a win in the playoffs. Like, we didn't get swept. Right? So, like, you know, we have friends that are Ottawa fans in the Game Over crew. Like, I'm happy for Maud and Charlie and all those people, right? But at the same time, like, it took them, like, 17 minutes of overtime. And I think, I agree that if the Leafs score a bunch of goals the way they have earlier in the series, and they go into the second period with a lead, even into the second period, I think the Sens are gripping their sticks tighter than the Leafs would be.
To me, it's not even so much about like, oh, it took this long in overtime. That was the Senators' best shot.
Yeah,
that was the best they could possibly play, and they barely won.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
the Leafs have won in this series without playing their best by a long shot, honestly. The Leafs still have another gear they can get to. The Senators, for 2 straight games, we have seen their most desperate, the best effort they can possibly produce, and they have barely won 1 game, and they have not looked good 5-on-5, especially offensively. They're a good defensive team. I'll give them that credit for that, but nothing that has come out of their most desperate efforts has given me pause really at all. Like, it would take like the Leafs would have to blow it more so than the Senators finding another level.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Okay, well, let's move over into the overtime because it is already getting pretty late out. I know you're out west, but it's late here and I'm old. So let's move over into the overtime period. Before we do that, thank you for being here. If you could hit like, if you could subscribe, if you could tell us in the chat if you have any questions, if you have any concerns, if you have any queries for either Zach or myself, either about the game or things that you're concerned about that maybe we haven't hit on tonight or anything like that. Maybe you think that Wolves should start Game 5 for some reason, and you have a great argument. We would love to hear it. So let's do that. Let's move over into the overtime period. And just before we do that, someone in the chat, I need to find it here. There were a couple of Ottawa fans. Thank you for being here. I hope you hit like and subscribe. Let's talk about what the Ottawa people said in the chat. They finally did it. It's been 8 long years. Even just inflicting Leafs fans with the worry that Giroux could do his second 3-0 reverse sweep is enough for a Sens fan like me. Well, we aim to please here at Game Over Toronto, so thank you for being here. I don't get the whole everybody's panicking. I don't think anybody is really panicking, really. Like, no one's panicking here.
This is just the difference of how traumatized are you from the past playoff failures. Like, that's the only thing. But if you look at it, like the Leafs this year, if you just watch them and like watch how they act and behave, they don't like. A great example is watch the Montreal Canadiens in Game 2 against the Washington Capitals. That is an immature, emotional playoff team where they were playing pretty good through the first 25, 30 minutes. One bad bounce went against them, and the Capitals completely ran their show for the back, 25 minutes of that game, and then they won, they ended up winning. The Senators in Game 1, that's an emotional team, and they got on till early in Game 1, and they took a whole lot of penalties, and the Leafs made them pay.
Yep.
The Leafs aren't that emotional team anymore. Absolutely. In the past, absolutely.
Yeah.
No denying that. Some of the players on this roster were. Maybe they still are.
Mm-hmm.
But the overall team isn't. That's the biggest point. And you know what? I think we can kick this off. I have some quotes from head coach Craig Berube.
Okay, let's go. Yes, please. Let's finish the show up with this. Also, really quick before you do that, Terry M got my tickets for Game 5. Have a great time on Tuesday, Terry. Cheer for all of us, man. Cheer for all of us when you're there. Please go ahead, Zach. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt. Give us some of these post-game quotes.
First thing, this would be reassuring. On the level of concern about John Tavares leaving the game in overtime, I don't think there's concern. He had to go off. We had power play, and he was not out there. But it is what it is. Very matter of fact. I love Chief for that. On the difference in the game, feels like we're beating the drum here, but the coach sees it too. Special teams, we gave up a power play goal for them and a shorty against our power play. We had our opportunities with the 4-man power play, but we couldn't get it done. And then on the failure to capitalize on that overtime power play, we had some good looks. We had Matthews at the post. We had some other looks that didn't go in. I'm not going to look at it too much. We didn't get a bounce. We hit a post, and we had a couple of other opportunities. JT is obviously good on the power play for us, but we still had our looks. And then this is the big one. On whether there is concern about the team's lack of killer instinct in a closeout opportunity. I don't think that was the case tonight. I thought our team played extremely hard and did a lot of great things. We gave up 4 shots in 2 periods. We defended and played hard. Bounces go one way or another. I am not too concerned about it. I thought our team was ready to go. We did a lot of good things tonight, and it didn't work out. Now, if I heard Sheldon Keefe say that after a game last year, I would have probably thrown my phone. But Craig Berube, the difference is Craig Berube, because he doesn't, I don't think he's capable of lying to the media. He's very blunt and matter of fact.
Yeah.
If the Leafs play bad, he's like, yeah, we didn't play our game. We didn't play our best hockey. And if they look good, we played good, had our looks, didn't go our way.
Yeah.
Like he's not a great quote, but he's very matter of fact. He's very blunt. He's very calm. And honestly, I like that.
I don't miss like the Sheldon Keefe smug smile after a loss. with like the unsung hero quotes, like just can it. I don't miss that at all.
Or I don't remember the score of the game. Like,
yeah.
ugh.
Yeah. I'm glad that is a past era and not the current one. That's for sure. It doesn't look like we have any really new questions in the chat. David W., I don't think the Leafs would necessarily sweep the Sens, but I'll take a game win 5 over losing in 6 or 7. Yeah, I agree, man. I think, like you said, Zach, just before we went live, just to throw it back to you one more time, you said something very good where you said, it's okay to lose one in their barn, but you need to come home and win it.
Yep.
You don't want to go back. You can't go back to Ottawa.
The age-old saying is you don't lose a series until you lose one at home. The Leafs have still not lost at home, and they beat Ottawa in their barn.
Yep.
So if coming into Game 4, your margin for error was like this, now it's just a little bit smaller, right?
Yep.
It's not. You still have room for error. Again, the Leafs have not played their best hockey. They've played it in bursts, but for a lot of it, they've just been content to play defense, and that's fine. Not concerned.
Yeah.
Like, go get it done in Game 5.
Yep. So we will be back here after Game 5. I believe Dominic will be back that game as well. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Again, if you could just hit like, subscribe, or if you have any comments after the fact, we always go back and read any of the comments that happened on any of the past posts. So we look forward to having you back, and hopefully, not only will Game Over Ottawa be back on Tuesday, but we will be back and dancing into the second round. So thank you for being here. Zach, where can everybody find you on socials, my friend?
You can find me on Twitter, Blue Sky, and YouTube at ZachPayne41. And again, reminder, follow the Game Over Network as well on all social media.
That's right. And you can find all of those links to Game Over Network, to Zach, and of course myself over on Twitter, on Blue Sky at Lauren in the Six, and Dominic's contact information down there. We will see you on Tuesday. Have a great start to your week, and go Leafs go!